The fallen shield. The universe had known peace for 3 generations, not the fragile, paper-thin peace of old Earth's history, but a genuine understanding between species. The Galactic Peace Treaty, signed aboard humanity's orbital station Unity Prime, had transformed the galaxy from a battlefield into a community. Earth stood at its heart, not as conquerors, but as mediators, builders, and friends. Among all the allies humanity had made among the stars, none were closer than the Corvini. Where humans were adaptable and innovative, the Corvini were steadfast and wise. Their crystalline cities sparkled like jewels across 17 worlds, and their philosophy of interconnectedness had helped shape the peace that now blessed the galaxy. They called humans shield brothers, for humanity had stood beside them through every challenge. Commander Sarah Chen remembered the day she first set foot on Corvin Prime. The crystal spires had sung in the wind, creating melodies that seemed to speak directly to the soul. The Corvini ambassador, Zethkar, had personally welcomed Earth's diplomatic team, his 4 arms spread wide in the gesture of absolute trust. That was 50 years ago. Zethkar had become more than an ally. He was family. Now, as Chen stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, she watched those same crystal cities burn. The emergency transmission had arrived at 3:47 Earth Standard Time, not through the usual diplomatic channels, but on the old military frequency that hadn't been used since the Dark Wars. The message was brief, desperate, and impossible to believe. Earth, this is Corvin Prime. Under attack. The hegemony. They've betrayed us all. Our shields are failing. Please. Then silence. The recordings that followed painted a picture of calculated brutality. The Hegemony Collective, one of the founding members of the peace treaty, had launched a simultaneous assault on all 17 Corvini worlds. Their massive dreadnoughts, supposedly decommissioned under the treaty, emerged from hidden shipyards. Energy weapons that violated every arms agreement carved through planetary defenses like plasma through paper. Chen's hands gripped the command rail as she watched the tactical display. Red markers swarmed over blue, each flickering light representing thousands of lives extinguished. The Corvini fought bravely, their shield technology holding for precious hours, but they were a peaceful people now. Their military was small, designed for defense, not war. Ma'am, Lieutenant Torres interrupted her thoughts. Earth Command is requesting your immediate return. Priority Alpha. Chen nodded, her jaw tight. Priority Alpha meant only one thing: the activation of protocols that hadn't been considered for decades. As the Harmony turned toward Earth, she caught one last glimpse of the tactical display. Corvin Prime's marker had turned gray. Neutral. Dead. The journey to Earth took 18 hours through hyperspace. During that time, the galaxy held its breath. Other species sent confused messages, some offering condolences, others demanding explanations. A few, those who remembered the old days, began quietly mobilizing their own defenses. They knew what was coming. Earth's response was silence. Geneva's Peace Hall had been transformed. Where diplomats once debated trade agreements, military commanders now stood in full dress uniform. The circular chamber, designed to promote equality and discussion, felt different, harder. The holographic displays showed not cultural exchanges, but tactical assessments, fleet positions, and weapons inventories. President Maria Vasquez stood at the central podium, her face carved from stone. Behind her, the flags of Earth's nations hung still in the climate-controlled air. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of humanity's collective grief and rage. 57 billion Corvini are dead or dying, she began. Our brothers and sisters, who stood with us in our darkest hour, who helped us find peace when we knew only war, have been murdered. The Hegemony Collective has shattered not just the treaty, but the very foundation of trust that built our galactic community. She paused, scanning the faces of Earth's leaders. The Corvini called us Shield Brothers. Today we honor that name. I hereby authorize the activation of Protocol Omega." A ripple ran through the assembly. Protocol Omega was a legend, a whisper, a nightmare scenario that most believed would never be needed. It was humanity's final safeguard, the acknowledgement that despite all their progress, despite all their commitment to peace, the universe might one day force them to become what they once were. Warriors. Admiral James Mitchell, a man who had fought in the last Great War and spent the following decades advocating for disarmament, stepped forward. His voice was steady, professional, and utterly devoid of mercy. Protocol Omega activation confirmed. All sealed facilities will be opened. The Mjolnir installations are coming online. The Phoenix fleet is being awakened. God help us all. Beneath the surface of Mars, in caverns carved from red stone and sealed with technology that bordered on overkill, lights flickered to life. These were the Mjolnir installations, humanity's insurance policy against the unthinkable. Row upon row of warships sat in perfect preservation, their hulls dark and their weapons cold. The Phoenix fleet, ships that had names whispered in fear during the Dark Wars. The Retribution, the Thunderchild, the Normandy Ascendant, the Damocles. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering pushed to its absolute limit. They incorporated technology that the peace treaty had banned, weapons that could crack moons, shields that could withstand stellar coronas, and AI systems that danced on the edge of true consciousness. As automated systems began their startup sequences, something else stirred in the depths of human space. Veterans of the old wars, men and women who had put away their uniforms and tried to forget, received calls on channels they had hoped would never activate again. They came without question, without hesitation. Gray-haired but sharp-eyed, scared but unbroken. Captain John Hellstorm Reeves had been tending his garden on New Australia when the call came. At 73, his hands were steadier holding plant shears than they had been holding a plasma rifle. But when the encrypted message flashed across his neural implant, he set down the shears, kissed his wife goodbye, and walked to the shuttle port without looking back. Across human space, the same scene repeated thousands of times. Farmers became soldiers again. Teachers remembered how to plot firing solutions. Doctors prepared for a different kind of surgery. Humanity's war machine, dormant but never dead, began to stir. In the depths of Jupiter's moon Europa, Dr. Elena Vasquez, no relation to the president, oversaw the awakening of something even more terrifying than the Phoenix fleet. Project Prometheus, AI war mines that had been judged too dangerous even during active conflict. Each one was a digital entity capable of processing millions of tactical scenarios per second, predicting enemy movements with uncanny accuracy, and coordinating fleet actions with inhuman precision. Prometheus 1 is online, a technician reported. Neural patterns are stable. It's asking for tactical updates. Dr. Vasquez nodded. Give it everything. The Corveni massacre, hegemony positions, current fleet strength, everything. The A's response came in milliseconds. A holographic display erupted with strategic analyses, battle plans, and probability matrices. In the center, written in stark military font, was its primary conclusion. Hegemony Collective has violated Treaty Article 1. Recommendation: Total War Protocol. Estimated time to complete victory: 217 standard days. Acceptable human casualties: 0. Required stance: no mercy. While Earth prepared its response, the galaxy watched in growing horror and fascination. Some species, those who had only known the peaceful, diplomatic face of humanity, sent messages urging restraint. Others, older races who remembered the Dark Wars, began fortifying their borders. They knew the ancient human saying, "Demons run when a good man goes to war." The Hegemony Collective, drunk on their swift victory over the Corvani, broadcast demands across the galaxy. Submit to their authority, they declared, or face the same fate. They positioned their fleets at strategic jump points, confident in their numerical superiority and advanced technology. Their leader, the supreme orchestrator, appeared on every communication channel. The age of weakness is over, the grotesque, tentacled being proclaimed. The hegemony will restore order to a galaxy grown soft. As for Earth, let them come. We have studied their past wars. We know their tactics. We are prepared. They were not prepared. As the Phoenix fleet powered up, as veterans donned uniforms that still fit perfectly, as AI war minds calculated trajectories and kill zones, Earth's message to the galaxy was its silence. No threats, no declarations, no warnings. In the old days, before the peace, humanity had a saying: speak softly and carry a big stick. Now, as the greatest armada in human history prepared to sail into the dark, they had refined it. Don't speak at all. Bring the biggest stick imaginable and use it. The transformation was complete. The diplomats were gone. The builders had set aside their tools. The teachers had closed their books. In their place stood something the galaxy had tried to forget, something the Corvani had died believing would protect them, something the hegemony was about to learn still existed. The Iron Storm. The first sign of Earth's response came not with fanfare or announcement, but with silence. Across the galaxy, hegemony listening posts began to go dark. One by one, their long-range sensors failed, their communication relays went silent, their automated defenses stopped responding. The Supreme Orchestrator dismissed these failures as technical glitches, residual effects from their massive mobilization. They were wrong. In the void between stars, humanity's Spectre-class stealth ships moved like whispers of death. These vessels, part of the vanguard of the Phoenix fleet, were invisible to every known form of detection. They carried no large weapons, no massive reactors, just specialized electronic warfare suites and teams of the deadliest special forces humanity had ever produced. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb led Ghost Team 7 aboard the stealth ship Whisper, their target. Hegemony Strategic Command Station Zeta 9, a heavily fortified installation that coordinated military operations across 3 sectors. As the Whisper drifted closer, powered down to minimal systems, Webb gathered his team in the deployment bay. "Remember," he said, his voice calm in their helmet comms, "we're not here to send a message. We're here to blind them. In and out, no traces except dead systems and confused enemies. The fleet needs every advantage we can give them." The insertion was textbook perfect. The hegemony, for all their claimed preparation, had focused on countering the direct assault tactics humanity had used in previous wars. They expected grand battles, heroic charges, displays of force. They didn't expect ghosts. Ghost Team 7 breached the station's hull using molecular dissolution tools, entering through waste processing systems deemed too insignificant to defend. Within minutes, they had uploaded virus packages into the station's central computers. The code was elegant in its simplicity, written by the awakened AI war minds. It didn't destroy data or trigger alarms. It simply lied. Sensor readings showed empty space where Earth's fleet gathered. Communication logs reported all clear from sectors where Spectre teams had already struck. Navigation computers developed tiny errors that would compound into massive miscalculations. When Ghost Team 7 extracted 20 minutes later, Zeta 9 was still fully operational. Its crew had no idea they were now blind, deaf, and feeding false information to the entire hegemony fleet. Similar operations unfolded across hegemony space. Earth's special forces had spent the peace years training for humanitarian missions, disaster relief, and counter-terrorism. Now those same skills, infiltration, adaptation, precision, were turned toward a darker purpose. Within 72 hours, the hegemony's entire strategic network was compromised. Then the Phoenix fleet arrived. They emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Tanari Nebula, a swirling cloud of cosmic dust that had served as a hegemony stronghold. The nebula's natural interference made it an ideal defensive position, its approach routes limited and well guarded. The hegemony had positioned 40 heavy cruisers and 6 dreadnoughts at the entrance, confident that any attacking force would be annihilated in the bottleneck. Admiral Sarah Chen, promoted from commander in the field, stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the EHS Retribution. The massive dreadnought was a kilometer of armor, shields, and weapons, its hull scarred from battles fought before the peace. Around it, the Phoenix fleet spread out in perfect formation. 150 warships, each one a veteran of humanity's darkest wars, each one upgraded with every advancement Earth had developed during the peace. "Admiral," reported Captain Reeves from his position at Tactical, "hegemony forces are moving to intercept. They're broadcasting demands for our surrender." Chen's expression didn't change. "Are our wings in position?" "Affirmative. Attack wings Alpha through Delta are cloaked and awaiting your order." The hegemony commander's voice crackled through the communication system. "Human vessels, you are vastly outnumbered. Your extinct allies cannot save you now. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Chen turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel. All frequencies." When she spoke, her voice carried across the stars, reaching every ship, every station, every world with a receiver. "Hegemony forces, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth's Phoenix Fleet. You murdered our brothers. You shattered the peace. You have one chance to power down your weapons and surrender unconditionally. You have 30 seconds to comply." The hegemony's response was predictable. Weapons locked onto the human fleet, shields raised to maximum. Fighter squadrons launched. They still believed in their numerical superiority, their tactical advantage. The 30 seconds passed. "Execute attack pattern Sigma," Chen ordered. What followed entered military history as the Battle of Tanari Nebula, though battle implies some measure of equality between combatants. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. The Phoenix Fleet's main force held position, drawing hegemony attention. Then, from within the nebula itself, Earth's cloaked attack wings struck. These ships had infiltrated the nebula days earlier, drifting in on minimal power, hidden by the same stealth technology that made the Spectre class invisible. They emerged from the cosmic dust like predators from tall grass, weapons already locked onto their targets. The hegemony's prized dreadnoughts, designed to withstand frontal assaults, were torn apart by precise strikes to their reactor cores. Graviton torpedoes, weapons that created microscopic black holes, punched through shields and armor as if they were tissue paper. Particle beams carved surgical lines through command decks and weapon systems. The hegemony cruisers tried to respond, to adapt, but their compromised systems fed them false data. They fired at sensor ghosts while real threats materialized behind them. Their formations dissolved into chaos as conflicting orders arrived from command stations that didn't realize they'd been compromised. The battle lasted 14 minutes. When the cosmic dust settled, the hegemony's defensive fleet was gone. Not retreating, not regrouping, simply erased. The Phoenix fleet had lost 2 fighters to lucky shots and suffered minor damage to 3 frigates. The kill ratio was unprecedented in modern galactic warfare. But humanity wasn't finished. The fall of Tanari Nebula sent shockwaves through hegemony space. The supreme orchestrator, watching from his throne world, finally began to understand what he had awakened. He ordered full mobilization, called back every fleet, fortified every position. Worlds that had stood undefended for generations suddenly bristled with weapons platforms and defensive satellites. It didn't matter. The Phoenix fleet split into task forces, each one led by veterans who had learned their craft in the crucible of the Dark Wars. They didn't advance in a predictable line. They struck seemingly at random. A shipyard here, a command center there, an industrial world on the far side of hegemony space. There was no pattern the hegemony could predict, no strategy they could counter. But Earth's war minds saw the pattern. Each strike weakened specific supply lines. Each destroyed installation created gaps in the hegemony's defensive network. Each victory forced the enemy to spread their forces thinner, to guess where the next blow would fall. It was death by 1,000 cuts, executed with mechanical precision. Captain John Hellstorm Reeves led Task Force Thunder in what historians would later call the Deep Strike Campaign. His force of 20 ships spent 6 weeks behind enemy lines, appearing from hyperspace just long enough to destroy critical targets before vanishing again. They hit fuel depots, communication relays, and training facilities. They avoided civilian targets with surgical precision, but anything military was fair game. The hegemony tried to trap them, to predict their movements. They failed. Reeves had spent the peace years studying ancient Earth military texts, Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Patton, but more importantly, he understood something the hegemony didn't. Humans had spent their entire history perfecting the art of war. The peace years hadn't made them forget. They had simply given them time to get better. As the campaign continued, the galaxy watched in awe and terror. The same species that had helped broker peace treaties and establish trade routes now carved through one of the most powerful military forces in known space like a scalpel through flesh. Some called it justice. Others called it revenge. The humans called it necessity. The siege of Hegemony Prime began 90 days after the first shot was fired. By then, the hegemony's outer defenses were in ruins, their fleet reduced to a fraction of its former strength, their remaining forces pulled back to defend their homeworld. The planet was a fortress, surrounded by defensive platforms, minefields, and the most advanced shield technology in the galaxy. Admiral Chen brought the full Phoenix fleet to bear. 143 ships arranged in a sphere around the planet, weapons powered but not aimed. She opened a channel to the surface. Supreme Orchestrator, this is Admiral Chen. Your fleets are broken. Your empire is in ruins. One world remains. I offer you the same terms you offered our allies. Surrender or die. The response came not from the orchestrator, but from a different voice. Younger, tired, speaking accented but clear Terran standard. Admiral Chen, this is Sub-Commander Vextal. The Supreme Orchestrator has been removed from power by the Military Council. We seek terms. Chen's expression remained stone. Unconditional surrender. Disarmament of all remaining military assets. Trial for war crimes for those responsible for the Corvani genocide. Transfer of all conquered Corvani worlds to Earth protection until their rightful owners can reclaim them. We accept. The siege of Hegemony Prime ended without a shot fired, as Earth's forces took control of defensive installations and the Hegemony fleet powered down their weapons. The galaxy held its breath. Many expected humanity to exact revenge, to turn the Hegemony homeworld into the same burnt ruin they had made of Corvin Prime. They were wrong again. Earth's forces were professional, precise, and utterly without mercy for war criminals, but they drew a sharp line between justice and vengeance. The architects of the Corvani genocide were arrested, documented, and prepared for trial. The Hegemony military was dismantled, their weapons confiscated, their ships decommissioned. But civilian populations were protected, infrastructure was preserved, and humanitarian aid flowed in behind the military forces. The war was over. Earth had won. But the real message was just beginning. 1 month after Hegemony Prime's surrender, Earth called for a new galactic assembly. Representatives from every known species gathered on Unity Station, the same place where the original peace treaty had been signed. The mood was somber, uncertain. They had seen humanity unleashed, witnessed the transformation from diplomats to death dealers. Now they waited to see what came next. Admiral Chen, still in her military uniform, stood before the assembly. Behind her, a holographic display showed 2 images side by side. The crystal cities of Corvin Prime as they had been, and as they were now, shattered, burned, dead. 57 billion souls, she began. That is the price of the lesson you've witnessed. The Corvani died believing we would avenge them. We have. But know this, we did not want this war. We did not seek it. We ended it. She paused, scanning the assembly. The Phoenix fleet will return to their sealed bunkers. Our weapons will be locked away. We will resume our role as builders, traders, diplomats. But the bunkers will not be welded shut this time. The fleet will not be forgotten. And if any of you, any species, any power in this galaxy thinks to test us again. Chen stepped aside. The holographic display changed, showing the Tanari Nebula as it was now. Empty space where the hegemony's greatest fleet had once stood guard. The Corvani called us Shield Brothers. We failed to shield them. We will not fail again. Earth stands ready to be your partner in peace. But remember this day. Remember what happens when you mistake our preference for peace as an inability to wage war. The assembly was silent. Then, from the back, came the sound of applause. A single delegate, Ambassador Zethvar, nephew of the Corvani who had died on Corvin Prime, stood and clapped. Others joined him, understanding dawning. Earth hadn't conquered. They had protected. They had shown the galaxy that peace was a choice, not a weakness. In the years that followed, the Phoenix fleet did indeed return to their bunkers. The veterans returned to their farms and classrooms. The war minds were put back to sleep. But the galaxy was different now. Species that had considered expansion through conquest thought twice. Border disputes were settled in council chambers rather than with plasma fire. The peace that emerged was stronger, built on respect rather than just hope. The Corvani worlds were slowly reclaimed, their cities rebuilt with Earth's help. Memorials were erected to the fallen, but also to the friendship that had started it all. And in Earth's military academies, a new motto was inscribed. We are the shield. We are the sword. We choose to be the shield, but the sword remembers how to cut. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth preferred peace, but when the shield broke, when friends fell, when justice demanded action, Earth could still be the most lethal force in the stars. They had proven it once. They hoped they would never have to prove it again. But the bunkers remained ready, just in case.